All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today we're talking about a Japanese comic book, a manga, that did way more than just entertain people. It actually sparked a massive global panic. We are, of course, talking about Death Note. So the big question is, how on earth did a fictional notebook, from a comic book, become so real in people's minds that actual schools started banning it and entire countries censored it? Let's get into it. Okay, so what is the Death Note? Well, the premise is so simple, it's kind of brilliant. It's a supernatural notebook. You write someone's name in it, they die. But, and this is the key, you have to be picturing their face when you write the name. That little detail makes the power feel so personal and absolutely terrifying. And this is where it gets really clever. It's not just some vague magic. This thing has rules. Like, super specific, almost lawyer-like rules. The default cause of death? A heart attack in exactly 40 seconds. How chilling is that? Oh, and you're never really alone. You get your very own death god, a Shinigami who follows you around. It's these rules that made the whole fantasy feel disturbingly real. So who gets their hands on this kind of power? You'd probably think some kind of cackling supervillain, right? Nope, it's a brilliant but totally bored high school student named Light Yagami. He looks around and just sees a world that is rotten to the core, and he genuinely believes he's the only one smart enough to fix it. His goal isn't just punishment, he literally wants to become the god of a brand new, perfect world. And that right there sets up this incredible cat and mouse game. On one side, you've got Light, who calls himself Kira and proudly declares, "I am justice." And on the other side, you have the world's greatest detective, this super eccentric genius known only as L, whose mission is to hunt him down. See, this isn't good versus evil. It's a battle between two totally opposite, totally absolute ideas of what justice even is. And as you can imagine, the real world had some strong opinions about this. The reaction was completely split. You had critics praising it as this bold, amazing exploration of morality. And then you had educators, especially in China, calling it poison to young minds. From the very beginning, Death Note lived in this space between total fascination and pure fear. And I think this quote really nails why people were so hooked. Light Yagami isn't just some character. He's like a mirror. He reflects that dangerous little part of society that wishes there were easy, final answers to huge, complicated problems like crime. But here's where the story takes a wild turn. From fiction into reality. It wasn't long before replica Death Notes started showing up. Just plain black notebooks. But students were writing down the names of their bullies, their teachers, their classmates. And that is when the real panic set in. And this wasn't just some small, isolated thing. The fear spread like wildfire all over the globe. It kicks off in China in 2007 with a total ban. A year later, it's in the US with school suspensions, then the UK, and get this. This is an ancient history. As recently as 2021, Russia was still banning it. This controversy has some serious legs. China was the first to crack down, and they did not mess around. Officials didn't see a comic book, they called it a dangerous psychological game. They literally sent police to raid shops and street stalls, confiscating any of these notebooks they could find. They treated it like a real public safety threat. Meanwhile, over in the US, you've got to remember the context. This was the era of very strict zero-tolerance policies in schools. So, as this principal from Alabama put it, even if a kid thought their Death Note was just a harmless prank, the school had no choice but to treat it as a potential threat. Fantasy slammed right into reality. And again, just in case you think this is all a thing of the past, it's not. In 2021, a Russian court banned the anime from streaming services. Their reasoning? They claimed it could harm the moral health of children. So yeah, the fear this story generates is definitely still out there. So, okay, you've got all these bans, all these suspensions, raids, public warnings. It really makes you wonder, right? Did any of it actually work? Did censorship manage to stop Death Note? The answer? Not even a little bit. In fact, it was the exact opposite. The manga has sold over 30 million copies around the world. All that controversy, it just became the best marketing campaign anyone could have ever asked for. It made this story feel dangerous, forbidden, and completely irresistible. The incredible irony of the whole thing was summed up perfectly by this one student in China during the crackdown. They said, "If Death Note is dangerous, it is only because it makes us think." The more people tried to shut down the conversation, the louder it got. Of course, when you take a step back and look at it, this whole cycle of adults panicking about what kids are into, it's nothing new. Death Note just became the latest chapter in this long, long history of supposedly dangerous media. I mean, seriously, think about it. Back in the 50s, it was comic books that were going to make kids into delinquents. In the 80s, it was rock music. In the 90s, video games got blamed for everything. Heck, even Harry Potter was banned by some schools for promoting witchcraft. It's the same pattern over and over again. And there's actually a perfect name for this whole phenomenon. It's called the Streisand effect. It's what happens when someone tries to hide or censor something, but their attempt just backfires and makes it way, way more famous. Death Note is a textbook case. So you can see this totally wild journey that Death Note went on. It starts by freaking everybody out and causing a moral panic. That panic makes it world famous. That fame cements it in pop culture forever. It was even parodied on The Simpsons. And now it's literally studied in university philosophy courses. It went from banned to canon. Incredible. So when you boil it all down, that's the legacy, isn't it? Death Note is this perfect paradox. It's a story that is still feared by governments, but at the very same time, it's celebrated by millions of people as a truly thought-provoking cultural masterpiece. And maybe the story itself actually gives us the best takeaway in its own epilogue, with this one simple but really powerful line. Because you cannot ban imagination. No matter how hard anyone tries, you just can't outlaw ideas. You can't stop people from thinking. Which, of course, brings that terrifying moral question right back around to you, to all of us. If you found that notebook, if you had the power to change the world, and you knew you'd never get caught, whose names would you write down? That's something to think about. Thanks for joining me.